Yes, today we are continuing the John Carpenter review series, just trucking along, moving all the way along. Today we're going to be talking about Memoirs of an Invisible Man. This came out in 1992, stars Daryl Hannah and Chevy Chase, and this one was actually a first time watch for me, which was quite interesting because I thought I'd not only seen two of his films. That was, I thought, from John Carpenter's films, but when I was going through his filmography and looking through it online and Wikipedia and stuff, I was like, oh my god, like, Memoirs of an Invisible Man. He directed this? What's this? Like, he didn't write this film, but he was the director of this movie. So today we're going to discuss the positives, the negatives, and the rating. Roll it. Memoirs of an Invisible Man stars Chevy Chase as Nick Holloway, who is a character who accidentally gets turned invisible by this government experiment when he ends up like kind of falling asleep in this one building, and he's pursued by a special agent played by Sam Neill, and he also has a love interest in this film, Daryl Hannah. So this is going to be a really fun one to talk about because, like I said, this was a first time watch. I had no idea. This one slipped under the rug for for many years. Did not know this was a John Carpenter film. So this was a quite an interesting watch because this is one that when you watch it, it feels like so John Carpenter at moments, but then it just also feels like something completely different. So let's kick the list off with some positives right away. And one huge positive is going to be Sam Neill. I think as the antagonist character, he's really good. This might be one of my favorite performances by Sam Neill. He's awesome. He's threatening. He commands the screen. And most of the interesting scenes in the film are with Sam Neill. And there's a huge chunk of the film where they just kind of, where he's not in it really. And you can feel the absence of his character because of how potent and how amazing his character is. So he's definitely a huge positive as our antagonist character. He's the special agent who's tracking down Nick Holloway in the film. Another one that I thought was actually going to be a negative was Daryl Hannah. I think Daryl Hannah was amazing. She's a gem. She's beautiful. But in terms of acting, I didn't know if she was going to be able to bring it for this role, but she's so sincere. She's such a gem. She's so sweet. And for real, she's one of the best parts of this film and does some really good emotional moments. And I think some of her scenes with Chevy Chase when she's reacting to him when he's invisible, they did a lot of cool stuff too in terms of special effects. But yeah, when she's reacting to him and just finding out things, I think she does a beautiful job as her lead or as our co-lead, because like she's basically the co-lead, the love interest. And also the special effects I spoke about just earlier is that they had some really cool new effects that they were doing to achieve the invisibility on screen, but it's also kind of a 50-50 because there's some really good ones, but there were also some other ones where they severely dropped the ball. And I was very interested in this film. That's one thing I gotta say is I love when you go back to films from the 80s, the 70s, and the 90s, and you find out these films and it's like they're only about an hour and a half to like an hour and 45 minutes, but for some reason they are able to pack in more story, more content than a 2 hour and a half movie. Like there are sometimes when you watch a movie that's 2 hours and a half and you're like, what was the purpose and what was the need for that? I didn't feel like that with this film. Like this was one of those films that maybe one time I looked down at my phone just to check the time and that was about it. So it kept me interested, engaged with the film, and like I said, was quite surprised at how intrigued I was with the story. And I think this is a really cool story. And also John Carpenter has some fun moments where he puts Chevy Chase in the old school Invisible Man look, and that's my favorite look, just the bandaged up face with the sunglasses and the traditional hat and the coat that goes all the way up to here with having like a little scarf right here to block the neck. Yeah, that classic OG look does show up in the film, so I love that John Carpenter paid homage to the original Invisible Man. And in terms of an Invisible Man story, this is nowhere near the worst one that I've ever seen. I mean, I'm looking at you, Lee Winnell, like, I'm sorry, that Invisible Man one, that film he did, it can go F itself. I do not like that film. I didn't even really like his Wolfman film, and I know that's kind of controversial, but I'm more of a huge fan of Hollow Man and the original Invisible Man. But after watching Memoirs of an Invisible Man, this is quite fun and an interesting story, and one that I would recommend people check out, and one that I liked mostly predominantly, but there are some mixed and negatives, and let's kind of get into those right away. And one huge mixed and negatives, and I'm gonna put this in the mixed column because There are moments where I think Chevy Chase did a really good job, and you can tell he was really trying and wanted to be more of a serious actor. And there are moments where he goes for it and he tries, but I feel like he's miscast. This is, like I said, a mixed thing because I don't necessarily think it was his fault. I just think the casting and the choice of it, I don't think he was the best actor to do it. While I was watching this film, I was like, man, this would have been a perfect film for probably like James Spader would have did a great job with this, or even early Bruce Willis. We love you, Bruce Willis. My heart is with you and your family. But I think James Spader, especially in 1992, James Spader or Bruce Willis would have been fantastic in this role. Another negative I kind of brought up already is the special effects. There are moments like in the beginning portion when Chevy Chase first gets turned invisible, there are some really cool special effects with a building that only pieces of it get turned invisible, but you could see the other parts of the building. It looks amazing. But then there's also some other sequences where Chevy Chase is running around in the city downtown. It does not look good. Or like when he's smoking a cigarette and it's just those still shots of him trying to be in a mirror, or you see the phone coming up. Like, yeah, there are some moments where it looks very jarring and it looks old school effects. And then there's sometimes where it looks like, wow, this is some new age type shit. And John Carpenter and them brought it to life because, yeah, they did use some new special effect techniques for this film. One last negative I'm going to have with this film is going to be the pacing. This is one of those films that has also an identity crisis too when it comes to the pacing, where it doesn't know if it wants to be an Invisible Man story, an origin superhero story thing, or a love story, because there's different, like, it feels like there's three different movies almost stitched together, because the way it starts out as almost like an origin story for an Invisible Man superhero, and then it's kind of a love story, and then in the third act it becomes more of just an Invisible Man story and a hunt, like Sam Neill hunting for this character. So it's just, I feel like there's a huge identity crisis and a pacing problem. That might be because this was not written by John Carpenter and this is based off a book, so this isn't one of his original works. And also I heard on set while they were doing production that him and Chevy Chase did not have the best relationship on the set. But these are just my thoughts and my opinions for Memoirs of an Invisible Man, and in terms of a Radd rating, Memoirs of an Invisible Man is going to get a 7 out of 10. This is one that definitely surprised me. I was totally ready to come up here and bash this film and talk so much crap about it because I was like, this one slipped under the radar. But, I got to go with my boy John Carpenter. I trust him. He's a director and a writer that I love, a composer that I think is very smart behind the keys. And when like I said, he does films, he's so versatile in the stuff that he does. And I think Memoirs of an Invisible Man, like I said, it's nowhere near a perfect film, but it definitely surprised me, and one that I can't wait to rewatch, and one that I would revisit. This is like not a film that I'm like, oh, this is awful, I wouldn't check it out again. No, this is definitely a film that I would revisit. But please shout out down below in the comment section, what are your feelings and thoughts on Memoirs of an Invisible Man, and are you enjoying this John Carpenter review series? We are about time almost wrapping this up, which is going to be really exciting because we're going to get a chance to rank all 18 films of his, and that's going to be the big video. That's going to be the one that's the most controversial, because it's so tough when it comes to John Carpenter because he has so many great films. But thank you for sticking around with me. All your support, I greatly appreciate it. But most importantly, you all know what's up. Have a safe and happy day. Peace out.